Right, great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for participating. We're going to call the meeting to order here. Here, 3 more people jumped on. I'm going to go down through the list and read your names. If you could just say here when I read your name, that would be great. Paul Biebel, Greg McGuire, Dan DiBattista, Jen Kimmich, Janet Bombardier, Steve Marsh,
here,
Kent Eldridge,
here,
Amanda Baraldi,
here,
Jerry Tarrant, Jostine Solheim. Is Torty on?
Not yet.
Okay. Don George, Jeff Wright, Judy Geiger, Rick Cabot, Ellen Kaler, Marty Thiered, Suzanne McDowell, Sean Woodruff, Mike Lane, Lori Gunn, Grant Spates, Kathy Keenan, Kevin
may
Mullen.
join on my call. This is Tristan.
Okay.
She's coming down in a second. She'll be on my phone line.
Thanks very much. Kevin Mullen, Wendy Koenig, Trisha Coates, Melissa Hirsch, Heather Boucher, Lynn Vera, she's on. Jeff Ouimet, Dennis LeBounty,
Here,
Eileen Aluzzi, Dean Stearns,
here,
Tom Longstreth, George Sable,
I'm here.
Pat Elmer, Jerry Ghazi's here, Scott Giles, Tom Little, sorry.
Actually, it's Scott, and I'll
Scott.
be able to make the whole point.
Okay, thanks. Diane Dalmas,
Here,
thanks Diane. John Goldstein,
here,
Lisa Menard,
here,
Christine Johnson, Robert Bridges, Chris Lewis,
here,
thanks. Rose is here.
Yep.
Pixie's here. Moose Lampman. Tristan's here. Pat Molden.
here,
Is Becca on? And Joyce Judy.
here.
Thanks, Joyce. Anyone that just joined the call, could you just tell us who's on? That just barely
Hi,
joined.
this is Christine Johnson calling from the Agency of Human Services Secretary's Office.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Judy Geiger from Killington Pico Ski Resort.
Thanks, Judy.
It's Janet Bombardier.
Thanks, Janet. Is Jen on?
Jen Kimmick is here.
Great, thanks, Jen. Dan DiBattista? All right. Anyone else? Who did you say, Jeff Wright?
I'm just looking.
Jeff Wright, are you on? All right, we'll who just joined the call?
Hi, this is Heather Boucher with AOE.
Thank you.
Hi, this is the date also.
Two people. And someone else just joined as well.
Eileen Aluzzi, are you on the phone?
I am also.
Great.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people
And I
are
are
on there.
together.
Thank you, Eileen. Anyone else that just joined and didn't hear your name called? All right, we'll take it that they're there. So we are here today to formally vote on the adoption of the WIOA state plan. And in order to proceed, we're going to try to get through this as quickly as we can in respect to your time and this phone conference here today. So I would entertain a motion to approve the plan as drafted. Once we have that motion, we'll start asking for amendments or edits to the plan. So would someone like to make that motion?
Jerry Cassidy, I make the motion.
This is Pat Moulton. I'll second the motion.
Okay, moved by Jerry, seconded by Secretary Moulton. And are there any proposed amendments? We do have some that have been submitted
And
electronically, and we've already responded to them, and they're incorporated into the draft that
We
we
just need to hear people. Some of the. This is Annie Noonan. Some of the. So, just to remind you that Cam was doing drafting and incorporated many edits that had been received from folks, and not just board members, but from some other people. Most of those you would have seen in the draft that was sent to you. And also posted this past Monday. Last night I sent out another email to you that just incorporated things we received since Monday, like yesterday and the day before, and that was a one-page memo, and it was sort of 3 points. On at least one or two of those, we massaged the language a little bit to ensure that it was clear and consistent. So it would be good if we could hear from, I know one of the submitters was Trish Coates and Michelle Tarek and Lindsay Lathrop Ryan submitted stuff. So if any of folks or those folks are on the call, if you'd like to let us know, if you want to comment on the incorporation as it was drafted, as we put it together, if it's okay, then that would be helpful to know.
So Tricia was one of the people. Are you on? Tricia?
Tricia is trying to get on the line. She has a wrong number, so
Okay.
I am sending her another number right now.
Great.
I don't know why she has the wrong number, but
Okay.
we'll try and get her on.
Thanks. Michelle Tarek.
I think she has a meeting, so this is Pixie,
Okay, great.
and I'm here for Michelle, and it was and Heather, you're on as well, so it's
Yes, I am.
It's just to get consistent language. On page 42, it refers to Vermont Adult Learning, and so Michelle's correction was that would read the Learning Works Partners. There's also a request that it be the Adult Education and Literacy Partners. So Heather, do you have a preference?
I think either is fine with me. I actually instructed Cam yesterday through email, hopefully he didn't get it yet, to go through and search for Val and change it to Learning Works Partners
Okay.
throughout the document. So Annie, my
made that
sense
change.
is that Cam will do that for the final version.
It actually is in the version that went back out again last night. He did make that change.
Mm-hmm.
It was on pages 43 and 44.
Okay. Yeah.
Now Pixie just raised an interesting question, which is Learning Work Partner Programs correct, or should it say Adult Education and Literacy Partners?
Right. So
Whatever.
that's why I was asking Heather, because in the beginning of the document, it does refer to Learning Works Partners. And technically,
Well,
yeah, go ahead,
all
Heather.
of them have to be Learning Works Partners because that's the data collection.
Perfect.
So I think we kind of see them as interchangeable, but if Pixie, if you would like, or anyone else would like to have adult educational partners and learning partners, that's fine with me.
Good. I think we're good. Great.
So we'll just keep it Learning Works Partners and be consistent.
All right.
So we'll make sure that that's the same.
Perfect. And that change is already incorporated. Two other proposals for amendment. Lindsay Lathrop Ryan, which was edited by Heather, and that's been incorporated as well. And then Tricia Coates, which was edited, her suggestions were edited by Annie and responded to Tricia. Is Tricia on? Is she okay with the changes?
Hi, yeah. I just got on.
Thanks.
Thank you. This is Tricia. Can everybody hear me okay?
Hear you great.
Okay, thanks. So, yes, thank you for the revisions. We're happy. We're pleased that you would take, our late submission. I was working under a different timeline that I thought ended next week. So thank you for taking those. And I guess I just wanted to reiterate what we were trying to do with our first point, which was we were talking about how to bring higher education to the table in a very productive, goal-oriented way on the workforce conversation. And so thought that if there was a committee or a subcommittee of the Workforce Development Board that the higher ed was a key partner in, along with employers and the other partners, that would be a good outcome of this process. And so, Annie, you suggested that the language be altered to read that any subcommittee that is created would have higher ed as a participant, which we appreciate. I just wanted to reiterate that our thought was a little more specific, and maybe that's a conversation for the future. But the point I was trying to make is we want to be at that table and in a very productive way. And it may even be that a committee could look at a subcommittee could look at sectors. A subcommittee could look at one of the target populations you have in the report. So that's. I just wanted to explain where that comment was coming from, but I appreciate the revision.
Great. Yeah, and I just this is Annie, and thank you, Trish. And the and what part of what I, in terms of the language, I can read just so people will know what it actually incorporated. It says the State Workforce Development Board Chair and Executive Committee shall appoint subcommittees as necessary to examine and make recommendations to the board on best practices and strategies to connect employers to education and training providers to meet Vermont workforce needs in high-demand industries and occupations. Any such subcommittees shall include representatives of business, secondary and higher ed, career technical and adult education, eligible training providers, and state agencies and departments, including those which are WIOA Title Fund recipients. So that's a pretty broad swath of people to be involved. So thank you. Hopefully that meets the needs.
Yes, and I think what we'll do when this is finalized and we're underway with our new state plan, that we'll maybe consider the idea of a focus committee, as you've outlined, to address specific workforce questions and just be very goal-oriented with it. And then just briefly, the second collection of comments that we submitted was around your target populations, which you clarified are indeed included. But I just wanted to mention two groups that we're specifically focused on in our work, our outreach work, and I know that this is an area of alignment with all of the partners. So the first group, in addition to the women and other underserved populations that you have listed, the first group, we just wanted to sort of mention the low-income / first-generation college students group. So that would be those people that fall into both of those categories, and so they bring two separate but related groups of challenges. So that's a group of folks that we are particularly focused on in our outreach, especially, across in our adult and our traditional college-age students. We thought that might be helpful to specifically mention those two categories. And then finally, I know we also mentioned in our comments the gap in Vermont for young adult men. And the reason I we put that in our comments, was not to exclude any of the other underserved groups, including women, but young men in Vermont, if you look at the VSAC report that they put out earlier last year, really are truly falling off the map in Vermont. So, for example, only around 40% of high school of men, first generation young men who graduate from high school go on to any post-secondary anything. So we're tired. We're very focused on this. I believe Joyce Judy is on the phone, and she can speak to this in a much more coherent and eloquent way than I can, because they're doing really important work in this area. But we thought that it might be an important group for us to target and mention in the report.
And I would this is Joyce, and I would just echo what Tricia says. I think that it's all populations, but right now in Vermont, the ones that we're least successful with, and this is a national crisis, are young men. So if anything we can do to target their work. And the governor has been great. In his State of the State address, he actually acknowledged a program we're doing very specifically in Lamoille County. So I know it's on the radar of lots of people.
So the change
This is Lynn Vera, and I'm wondering if some of Tricia's comments about about first gen, especially recent high school grads, first gen going on to post-secondary, might also be something that could be tucked into the section on youth, and I'm sure that we'll be talking about that on the youth council. And the second thing is, Trish and Joyce, I think, without clouding it too much, as long as we're talking about post-secondary also being apprenticeships and licenses that to this date don't carry college credit, then I think it's true that high school boys don't go on to post-secondary. But my hope is that we will blur that division about what is post-secondary, and then I think the numbers won't be quite so desperate or so black and white. And it's not a number.
Actually, Lynn, I am, when I say post-secondary, I am including training. I'm including military. I'm including, so I meant to be inclusive. Like the report is inclusive. When it talks about training, it does not say higher, when it talks about training, I know that it means both. So I want to make sure that when we're looking at targeted populations, that's a big gap for us.
It is,
So how about if we amend it to say first generation students pursuing post-secondary?
Well, it's also low income.
Well,
low income is the other bucket there.
Yeah, we've
That's
incorporated that already. Low income. So we'll change the wording to post-secondary, first generation. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does there need to be a call out on young males in particular in that as well?
Well, I think that's what we proposed in our comments, and we don't do that to exclude the needs of women, especially underserved women, but I think it's for your all consideration, this gap with young men in Vermont.
This is Pat, and I would agree with Tricia that we certainly not at the exclusion of, but to somewhere, and I've heard the writers highlight the issue with young males, and particularly the need to pursue math and post-secondary, as you have already added, and particularly the first gen. But I think some reference to the young males is appropriate.
Yeah, I support this is Janet. I support what Pat said. We brought up this issue many years ago, and it didn't get the light of day that it shouldn't have gotten then, and it's only gotten worse. So if we have any opportunity to make it highlighted, I think we should.
Yeah, right.
We have to work towards
that is right.
You need to keep it broader.
So Rose just raises a really important point that one of the things you need to consider is that the state plan becomes basically, from the USDOL's perspective, if you put it in your plan, then in fact they measure your success based on that. So if we were looking, so if, for example, we list that, say that, post-secondary education with young men as opposed to just with, like with young Vermonters, they might actually be looking for us to show that we have prioritized young men over as a group. And that is just...
But I saw throughout that section, I did see the reference to underserved women too. So I don't need to push this. I mean, I think we could use a universal language here, as long as we all understand that that's a very specific need in Vermont.
And Annie or Rose, this is Pat again. Are you saying that you're concerned that we may not? I hear your concern about the measure, but I think not putting words in Janet's mouth, but I think what we're saying is that we probably do need to direct some extra attention, not only at low income, first gen, and underserved women and folks with disabilities, et cetera, but also recognizing that young men are pursuing math at a slower rate, pursuing post-secondary education at a slower rate, and so maybe we should be putting some attention and actually having outcomes that are measurable as it relates to that population, not at the exclusion of, and I hear your concern there, but that's an issue, and we really need to call it out and be measured on how successful are we in impacting that population.
Right, and I agree with you, Pat. This is Rose. The problem is when you put it in the plan, it becomes prescriptive, and it's not broader. Then they look to that, and then we will be out of compliance with our plan, because that's what they will look to make sure that we're doing that. And if we list each one and we forget one, and then we serve, it just becomes very. I mean, I think that we can put it in there in a way so that it will include, and then we could say something like, put the emphasis on the young men and the young ladies and the non-traditional training and all of that, but not say that is what Vermont is solely going to focus on, because then that is what our plan will say we're going to do.
No, I hear you, Rose, and I'm not suggesting that's the sole focus, but I do think reference to the importance of that in the narrative somewhere, maybe not as a measure, but I think more substantively, we as program providers need to also be mindful of the need to advance that population. So I hear you on the compliance issue, but I guess what I'm saying is, we need to put attention on these other populations, but also young men. And so we should start measuring and asking and reporting on how many young men are we serving in these various programs, in addition to low income, how many low income women, how many low income males, how many first time college going men and women, and not just total numbers, but how are we doing on the gender piece there? That's what I'm suggesting.
All right, this is Eileen. For clarity, I know that everybody thinks that there are particular populations that...
Hey, Eileen, get closer to the phone because you're breaking up.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Much.
Okay, so I think that there are various populations that we can name that are underserved, and a lot of them are near and dear to different people's hearts. For the sake of the plan, I think it might be best if we say underserved adults, including but not limited to, give a couple of examples, and then we can still, at a state level, without specifically mentioning it in the plan, collect that data and have initiatives on our own and follow it without being held accountable to, well, exactly how much was it, how many. So if we're broad in our language with a few examples, saying including but not limited to, I think it'll cover it. And then we will just know that this is what, as a state, we want to focus on and we want to collect data on. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah,
That is very well stated in my perspective, Eileen. Thank you.
Okay, great. Annie has incorporated
So
that.
let me see if I can read something. So the language that we would have, this was, I'm just writing, so bear with me. This is part of what we worked on last night. But in creating an equitable and inclusive system, Vermont must recruit, train, and create opportunities in non-traditional jobs for women and other underserved and underrepresented populations. And then that's where I think we could put including but not limited to, and then we could get that in there. Which would include like low-income individuals, students, young women and men who are students engaging in post-secondary education as first-generation. That something like that. If I put it in there, we might be able to get them all in one place.
Yeah.
The career and technical education centers are tracking gender numbers now, so on an annual basis. So we will have that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Okay. Are there any other proposed amendments?
This is Pat, and maybe it's in there, but should there, maybe it's inappropriate. I was just thinking of the Lumina work and whether that could somehow be included in the narrative. I don't feel strongly about it, but I think that's, again, I recognize it's not something you want to be judged on, but in terms of inclusion as an effort that's happening here in Vermont, I defer to your judgment on that, Annie.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, Annie. This is Tricia. I was just going to say, Pat, when we read through the report the other day, we were seeing all kinds of places where the, Advanced Vermont Lumina effort aligns with that. And what we are interested in doing is, and this was sort of the idea for the subcommittee, where we can really bring people together to focus in on a specific sector or a specific group of people and have us and all the partners at the table to really, have a goal-oriented, maybe even by region, I'm not sure. I see tremendous alignment. But so it may be, Annie, it may be worth mentioning this parallel effort as a way to strengthen the report.
Oh, that's
what I was thinking, Tricia, and I agree. There's a lot of alignment, and I don't know, Annie, if there's merit to that, but just indicating that your work, that this plan is supported also by these additional efforts, something like that.
And this is Pixie, and I would certainly second exactly what you were saying, because I think I felt that was something that was missing from the report, and that is a strong emphasis on preparing non-traditional folks for successful transition to post-secondary and employment, knowing that there were a lot of folks with or without a high school diploma who lack the skills to be able to persist successfully in either a training program or higher ed. So,
Annie, this is Tricia. Would it be helpful if we provided you with a brief paragraph?
That would be great, and where it would go, that would be helpful too.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Any other proposals for amendment? If not, I would like to call the question to adopt the plan, and we have to do a roll call because this is a public meeting and we're doing a teleconference. So I've got to go down through the list here of folks, and we'll do it really quickly. Paul Biebel. Greg McGuire. Dan DiBattista. Jen Kimmich. Okay, Janet Bombardier. Mary Linterman. Chris Loso. Steve Marsh.
Yes.
Kent Eldridge,
Yes.
Amanda Beraldi,
Yes.
Jerry Tarrant, Jostine Solheim, Don George, Jeff Wright,
Yes.
Judy Geiger,
Yes.
Rick Cabot, Ellen Kaler, Marty Theoret, Suzanne McDowell, Sean Woodruff, Mike Lane, Lori Gunn, Grant Spades, Grant, Kathy Keenan,
Hi.
Kevin Mullen, Wendy Koenig, Tricia,
Yes.
Melissa Hirsch, Heather Boucher,
Yes.
Lynn Vera, Lynn?
Did you say Lynn? I can't really
Yeah, I
hear.
said Lynn Vera. Yep.
Yep, Lynn. I'm
Jeff,
here, yes.
Jeff Weemet, sorry.
Hi, this is Tom Torty. I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
We hear you. And will you vote to approve the plan?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I'm calling to vote to approve the plan. I've listened to it. I've read it.
Thank you. We're doing a roll call, Tom.
Oh, well, goodbye.
Okay. Thank you. Dennis LeBounty?
Yes.
Eileen? Eileen Aluzzi?
Yes, Eileen Aluzzi.
Thank you. Dean Stearns, sorry.
Yes.
Tom Longstreth? George Sable?
Yes.
Thank you. Pat Elmer? Jerry Ghazi?
Yes. Yes.
Scott Giles or Tom Little?
Scott Giles, yes.
Okay. Diane Dalmas? Yeah, Diane?
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Commissioner Goldstein?
Yes.
Thank you. Lisa Menard?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Christine Johnson?
Yes.
Robert Bridges? Chris Luris?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Pixie?
Yes.
Moose Lampman? Tristan Tolino?
Yes.
Pat Moulton?
Here, yes.
Backup blank? Joyce Judy?
Yes.
Thanks. Going back to Janet Bombardier? Any others that didn't hear their name called?
You need to vote.
Yeah, and I'll vote yes. Okay. Great. Is there any more business to come before us? Okay.
So I would just, this is Annie. I will say that Cam and I will work to incorporate and clean up any edits. I don't know if anybody realizes they got their phone not muted, but we can hear a whole bunch of laughing. I want to be where you are.
I can hear it.
I think they're at the Elks Club.
I think so.
Or wherever we were. Eagles or wherever it
Or
was.
share the joke or something.
So Cam and I will work to try to get things incorporated, making sure that we're looking again. If for any reason Trish will wait and we'll get the Lumina information in. Okay. Obviously, I would think that if anybody, that the board would feel that if anybody calls in and sees something that they'd like corrected from the perspective of a better, maybe potentially a better phraseology that does not fundamentally change the direction of things, I would think that the board would be okay with that. I presume, Frank. And
Yep.
Obviously, if you see any errors in terms of grammar or syntax, please let us know. We haven't read it for that yet, and I've got Jason loves to do that, so we're going to give it to him. But we will endeavor to continue to to incorporate anything that makes sense in relationship to what the board has agreed upon. Thank you from my perspective for lots of help from many of you.
Thank you. Anyone else that just joined the phone or reconnected with us that didn't hear their name called to vote?
Frank, that was just Heather and Eileen.
Okay, great.
You've already voted.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll stand adjourned. Thanks so much, everybody, for taking the time.
And do we have a next meeting?
Thanks for the board.
Great. Thank you.